So this is the new Nothing 4A Pro. It's the latest mid-range device from a company who, I gotta give them credit. Every year, they reinvent this hardware, making a device that looks so different and so cool. But these beautiful devices, that's not what this review is about.
It's about how nothing has or has not improved this, the camera system.
I'm Becca. I take tech outside, and after taking well over 500 photos with Nothing's latest Pro device, I can confirm there's a lot to love here. But there's still some moments where, you get what you pay for.
The big camera news this year is that Nothing is now using a Sony sensor under that main lens. The company claims that this allows the main camera to focus 20% faster than with the Samsung sensor in last year's model and the base model. And thank God for that. As you can see, the phone 4A often struggles to find focus, especially in low light, unless you specifically tap on a point. But more on that comparison later.
Ooh, baby. Oh yeah, this is gonna be a good one. Hold on.
But even this new sensor, it's still slow in low light, meaning it's not the best camera for astrophotography. And if you're gonna be pixel peeping, well, it's certainly not the sharpest lens on the market. But like any smartphone in 2026 and good light, there's a lot to love. And if you're not zooming too far in, you'll appreciate the bold colors, the so-so amount of contrast, but certainly the nice focus fall off. And video, those bright colors carry right over to create a really nice image. Although personally, I would not call this pro. The next big update comes to the telephoto lens, which does have the same sensor as last year's model, but now uses a different design.
Let me show you what changed, and please keep in mind this is a very distilled version, but it'll give you an idea of what's going on. So this is last year's device, and this is the design of its telephoto lens. Now you have to imagine that the phone is actually facing this way, so this lens is right here, and light enters this way. Then as the light enters, it hits a mirror right here that then directs it down to the sensor here. But in this year's device, the telephoto lens is up here, and again, imagine that the phone is facing this way, and light is entering this way right here. And as the light enters, it bounces off 1 mirror, 2 mirrors, 3 mirrors, 4 mirrors. Oops, this one I forgot to draw. And then it hits the sensor, creating this W pattern. And this allows the light to travel a further distance and mimic a much longer lens, and therefore provide further zooming capabilities.
So the phone can optically shoot at a 3.5 times zoom, or the equivalent of 80 millimeters, up from just 3 times or 70 millimeters in the 3A Pro. And since that sensor is 50 megapixels, the phone can crop into the 80 millimeter image to create a 7 times zoom, or 160 millimeter image. This is by far my favorite lens on this camera. Much like the main lens, it's not as sharp as telephotos on flagship devices, but it still has that flattening effect, great depth of field, and the most amount of contrast amongst the 3 lenses on this camera. There is, of course, still the telemacro capability that allows you to get up close and personal with details like the spikes of this cactus via this lens too. On the software side, Nothing claims to have reduced shutter lag for burst shooting, improved noise reduction at night, added an Ultra XDR mode co-developed with Google for better HDR performance, and a new Amber Portrait preset. Last week, I put up my review of the S26 Ultra's camera, and I complained that the stock camera app of that device lacked features that inspire me to shoot differently. And it's these sort of features, these presets, that I was talking about. Within Nothing's native camera app, you can swipe up and have access to loads of pre-made color looks. You can also make some yourself, or you can pull from Nothing's creator studio, called Playground. Now, some of these presets, well, I don't see myself ever touching outside of this review, but others have the power to produce fun, unique images. And above all else, they allow you to play in the native app and explore all the ways other folks have played by downloading their presets. I just wish I could see a preview of my image in this box instead of the stock image created for the preset. It would make flipping through them a lot more fun, and I'd probably do it more. But speaking of flipping through,
every time I do a 1,000 photos video, somebody's like, please, Becca, can you post these somewhere so we can look through them for ourselves? And thanks to this video sponsor, Framer, well, you got just that. This is a website I built with Framer, specifically designed to show you all of the photos from the Nothing 4A Pro. You see, Framer is a no-code website building tool that makes building an actually impressive-looking site easy. You can start from scratch, utilize the loads of tutorials, vectors, components, and plugins, or you can browse the hundreds of sleek templates, like I did, choose one, and then personalize it to fit your needs. For my build, I started by scrolling through the photography site templates, and I landed on this one, by Real Mahidi. Then I customized the titles, I added the photos, moved some things around, and bada bing, a site dedicated to photos from the Nothing 4A Pro. The link to my photo site is in the bio. Let me know what you think of the photos, of the website. There's also a link to Framer. Whether you are an amateur like me or a seasoned pro, there is something for everybody, and you're gonna be amazed at what you can build. Thank you, Framer, for sponsoring this video. Now back to the show.
As usual, I spent the first half of this video complimenting this camera system, and I don't take any of that back. The 4A Pro continues its reputation of having a very capable camera system for just $500.
But since nothing slaps that Pro name on this device, well, I'm gonna point out where that's not so much the case. Let's start with video.
There's still no 4K 60 option. And the ultra-wide, it's capped at 1080/30. Yikes. This feels very dated, and it's time for nothing to allow this Pro phone to shoot at pro resolutions. And while we're talking about the ultra-wide, this 8 megapixel sensor just ain't cutting it anymore. It's simply slow, it's not sharp, and in low light, everything falls apart. On the telephoto front, I've loved most of the results from this lens, but I've had some real problems too, most notably focus. There have been times where it has really struggled to recognize what I'm trying to focus on, even if I tap the subject. And then it hunts a lot, plus I've experienced a great deal of jitter in the preview. And in the footage too. Plus, you're guaranteed to notice, no matter what lens you're using, that the camera is going to be shifting exposure throughout your shot, which doesn't inspire a great deal of confidence in the system as a whole. My other complaint is all of the apparent processing. The image you see when you hit the shutter button is rarely what the final image will look like. The phone is going to apply a great deal of sharpening and contrast, and you will witness it do all of that. Now, this usually makes for a better photo, but it also makes me wonder, is that photo a true representation of my reality, or is it an ultra-processed version of it? Of course, the latter is true, and the Google Pixel has the same problem, which you can hear what I had to say about that here. And lastly, there is great color inconsistency across these lenses and sensors. I mean, just look at how the color in this scene changes as I zoom in. So while you can get some solid shots with this system, as you navigate it, you're going to see and feel that as a whole, there is just still so much buttoning up to do.
All right, there's one more thing I want to talk about before I wrap this review up, and it's not how damn fingerprinty the back is, no. It's when I opened this thing up, I wondered, what should I put it up against?
Do I compare it to the true Pro flagships, like the zoom of the Oppo Find X9 Pro, the great front-facing camera of the iPhone 17 Pro, or maybe the main lens of Samsung's latest powerhouse, the S26 Ultra?
But none of that really feels right. I mean, for starters, all of those phones are more than double the price, and I don't think that most folks are trying to decide between those flagships and this bad boy.
Although I must admit, final output from the 4A Pro can sometimes rival those flagships. Of course, at the cost of all of the trade-offs I just mentioned. I think the better comparison here is the $350 base phone 4A. It has an almost identical camera system. It's got the same ultra-wide, the same selfie cam, the same telephoto, but a slightly smaller main sensor that, like I mentioned previously, has a lot of trouble focusing.
So if you are all about camera, a slightly faster processor, and a much larger glyph interface, then I think spending $150 more for the Pro version is worth your while. And if you're in North America, you have no choice because the base model is not going to be available here. I'm Becca. Let me know what you think of the photos and videos from this device down in the comments. Again, there's a website down in the description where you can look through the photos from this device. As always, I appreciate the hell out of you, and I'll see you on the next one.